coming to you from the Edge Podcast Studios at South Mountain, Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome to the Edge Podcast with MikeG. Buckle up, Edge Nation. It's about to get real.
Ironman Arizona is set for Sunday. Thousands of athletes from all around the world will take part in the 17-hour race, and among them, there will be a handful of disabled athletes. Fields joins us now, and Fields, you've been following one of these athletes. He is just a remarkable guy.
He certainly is, Carrie, and of course the distances aren't any shorter no matter what disability you might have. Michael Somsan, he has a great story. He was born with his sight, but while a lieutenant in the Army, he was off duty. He was shot during a fight. He later became a lawyer, now poised to become an Ironman. Michael, good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. How are you?
We caught up with Michael Somsan in North Scottsdale, where he was meeting with his new guide, Carlene Dermantis, for a bike fitting.
I'm in.
Somsan has 2 triathlons under his belt since we first met him in September and feels ready for Ironman Arizona.
The swim has gotten a lot better. Of course, the mileage is going to be a little bit more.
1, 2, 3, pushing off.
Pushing off.
His training ran into a speed bump, you see, 2 weeks ago when his guide for the bike and run portions of the race injured a shoulder in a motorcycle crash.
It literally fell in my lap a week and a half ago, but it's something that I've always wanted to do.
The two had never met, but Dermantis has completed 3 Ironmans and was ready to step in. Of course, this setback, nothing compared to the night Michael Somsan lost his sight.
The person that I was fighting eventually went and got a gun and came back and shot me in the head.
He was a first lieutenant in the Army in 1995, a military career ahead of him, but he would never see again.
I felt in some ways like I failed. Like I should have been stronger, in terms of not letting this happen to me. Are the brakes okay for you?
Somsan has been getting stronger ever since. And Sunday, he will need all his strength to finish the greatest of endurance races.
This is Ironman, the big race.
I don't think I could have done this race without good people around me.
He's certainly thankful for all the people who've helped him out and helped him get this far. Michael told me he's still a little bit nervous, though, about that 2.4-mile swim. It's a shotgun start, starts at 7 a.m. on Sunday, but that means all 3,000 athletes are going to be running into that water at the same time. Pretty tough when you can't see who you're running into. I'll send it back to you.
Welcome to the Edge Podcast. My name is MikeG, and today we have in studio Michael Somsan, who is a remarkable man. I got to tell you, an attorney. He is retired first lieutenant from the United States Army, suffered a debilitating injury while in the line of duty and lost his sight. And today he sits with us in the podcast to talk about some of the endeavors and the way that he's overcome that. And he is a triathlete taking on the world in the world of championship sports. And so it's exciting to have Michael in studio with us. Welcome, Michael. Great to have you here, man.
Thanks for having me.
It's exciting, man. I'm really interested in your life and where you've been, but I want people to know a little bit more about you. So Michael's a practicing attorney here in Arizona. He's been a senior litigator. He's also a community legal services provider. He's also been a part-time judge. That's interesting. When did you do that?
I'm still doing that today.
Oh, okay.
I volunteer my time with the Maricopa County Justice Courts as a part-time judge.
And did you become an attorney after you left the military, or was that before? Were you in the military that way?
No, I was. That was after I got shot. I went back to law school at the University of Arizona.
All right.
And then, one thing led to another.
All right. Well, thank you for being here. So what's so unique about Michael is that he has already ran, biked, and swam in 2 Ironman competitions here in Arizona. And I think the 2015, you won that one for people that, blind or had other what is it? I don't
physical,
like
well, they call it
physical challenge.
The physically challenged division. Correct.
Yeah. So I want to use a proper, right? Because I've got a friend that he calls it adaptive athletes. I love that, adaptive athletes. You had to adapt to something, right? And but okay, physically challenged is another way to put it. I really like the adaptive athletes though, because man, you're an athlete and you're crushing it, and you had to adapt. So here's what's happening. He's actually going to be going to Kona, Hawaii, to participate and compete in the Ironman World Championships in Kona, and that happens October 8th. 2016. So this guy's a powerhouse, man. You're going to want to listen to everything he has to say. I'm really excited to be able to sit down with him. So Michael, again, welcome. And I have a couple of questions that I want to lead into before we get started in talking about what your endeavors are now. But the first question, where were you raised? Where were you born? You were born in Hawaii?
No, I was not.
No?
I was actually born in Laos.
Oh.
And there was a little small skirmish called the Vietnam War.
Remember that?
Which, when I was a very young toddler at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But, as that war escalated, it went into Laos, and my parents, they were fortunate enough to get the whole family out, when that war crept over to Laos.
Well, so you got out and you went immediately to Hawaii. Your family took you to Hawaii?
No, we went to like a few. I mean, it went to a few places. Actually, Hawaii was more of a college stop later on. Okay. But from Laos, we went to, believe it or not, to Champaign, Illinois, of all places. And I have to tell you, that was the first time I ever saw fireflies.
Oh wow!
So I didn't know that you had such beautiful insects in America.
Yeah.
Their butts lit up, and I was like, wow, this is like
it's magic.
We don't have it's magic. We don't have this in Laos.
Right. Well, do you remember what it was like growing up? You were a toddler, so do you remember what that was like?
In the Midwest, remember when I came over here, I didn't speak English, so everything was nonverbal. Right. So I was like about 5 years old, and so if I had to drink, I would mimic the sign to drink. Right. Being around American kids, I had to learn how to speak English, properly, and that was certainly a transition.
Oh yeah, well it had to be. I mean, and so that challenge, you got over that, and then you spent most of your childhood days, I guess, in Champaign, Illinois.
A few years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing was, it was my brother and I that came out of the country first, and we were with my aunt, who was married to a military officer.
Oh, okay.
Who happened to be stationed. He was going to school in the University of Illinois.
Oh, okay.
My younger sister, and my parents were still actually in Laos, in hiding from the communists at the time. And then they, my father, he was in the government, who was helping the Americans. So basically, he stayed back.
Yeah.
So we were actually separated. My brother and I were separated from my parents for about 3 years before we got reconnected with them.
Wow.
And then so after Illinois, my uncle, who was a captain at the time in the Army, he went to West Point to teach.
Oh wow, cool.
So then we actually went to the academy, and we lived there for a couple of years with him.
Really?
So that's how the whole military influence.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
got into my life.
That's cool. And tell me about one of the things I love to learn about is influences early on in life. Who were your major influences growing up?
Certainly, my uncle was a very big influence.
Do you want to shout out to your uncle? What's his name?
He's Robert Baldinger. He lives in Texas now, but he's a retired colonel.
All right.
He's a really nice man.
Well, shout out to your uncle then.
Absolutely. He's been a big influence, and he's a big supporter of Ironman.
Well, and what are some of the things that he taught you?
I think he taught us to, go after our goals. Certainly, dream big, and don't stop until you get those dreams. Right.
Yeah, and when you're talking about dreams, if really get deep into some of the things that he shared with you that just clicked for you, because I know people all across America, all across the world, we hear about be a dreamer, be a dreamer, be a dreamer. So what, right? What are some of those things that just clicked for you when he told you, look, be a dreamer and follow him?
I believe it's more of the issue of having appreciation for your life and having the determination and perseverance to go after whatever it is that you makes you happy, whatever your dreams are. But at the same time, along the way, appreciate the journey that you're on. Don't forget to stop once in a while and say thank you to people who support you. And also at the same time, you just, open your eyes and open your ears and learn. Learn from your environment, learn from the people that you meet. That's the biggest part for me. I'm an immigrant, basically. I'm not from, I wasn't born in America, but the thing is, I appreciate what this country has given to me and to my family.
Oh, wow. See, that's real. There are a group of people in the world today in America called millennials, and I don't think that many of them have that appreciation for what they were born into. I mean, most of these kids were raised on social media. They have no idea what it was like before that, before the advent of the internet, social media, Facebook, etc. So they're very they have a very different context for how they were raised. It's so important to really get a message that says, look, appreciate where you come from, appreciate what you have, because honestly, you came here for your life.
Absolutely. Freedom.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about, there are certain countries that don't share the same freedoms that we have in this country.
And so when you joined the military, was that one of the reasons why?
I joined the military because I couldn't afford college. So, I mean, to be honest, college is expensive.
Yeah.
And, my parents were not rich. They said, figure it out. And I said, well, there's only so much in the day you can work. Yep. But at the same time, I said, well, I really like the military because it taught me discipline, and they did pay for my college.
Awesome. And so how long were you in the military? When did you join, by the way?
I was a cadet at the University of Hawaii back in, it's going to show my age. Let me see. Back in 1988.
Oh, wow.
1988. And then I graduated in 92, and then went into the military as a second lieutenant.
In the Army, U.S.
Correct,
Army. Yeah.
U.S. Army. And then, but before then, as a cadet, I was also in the Army Reserves.
Oh, okay.
So I was a sergeant. I was enlisted before I became an officer.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate the fact that, you went in as an enlisted and then got your way into OCS. How was Officer Candidate School?
Well, it was ROTC. So basically, ROTC is a little bit different than OCS. ROTC is basically you're attending college, and then you at the same time you attend military science studies on campus. And University of Hawaii was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a great place. It's one of the 2 cadet battalions next to the Citadel that is actually have war streamers from a school.
Wow. Because
believe it or not, in World War II, the cadet battalion in Hawaii was activated on active duty. Wow. So it's one of 2 cadet battalions nationwide that actually has a legitimate war streamer on their school's banners.
That's huge. Wow, that's amazing. And when you got out and you went into you became a first lieutenant in the Army, and that's not where you started. You retired as a
first lieutenant. Right.
So when you got started, where did you go from there? I mean, tell us a little bit about your deployments and where you went.
Well, I went to Texas because I was in the medical corps, and that's where the home of the Army's medical corps is taught, and where they raise young officers. Well, where they teach young officers to become medical officers. Okay. So I did a lot of time in Fort Sam Houston, and then I went up to Fort Hood, Texas, which is a very big armored base.
It's a huge base.
It's a very big base. And they deploy everywhere from, Afghanistan to Europe to, all around the world. Because, we have a big mission in Fort Hood. So I was assigned to the 1st Cavalry Division.
Wow. Okay. And from there, you went on to where?
From there, that's where in Texas is where I got injured.
Oh, okay.
But from there, we deploy everywhere.
Right. So tell us about your injury. What happened?
Let's put it this way. You want the short version or the long version?
Well, we've got an hour, so let's go with the short version.
The short version. All right. Well, basically, my friend had gotten out of the military. He was going back to school at University of Texas in Austin, and we had gone down there one night to basically visit him, from Fort Hood, Texas, and we were in between deployments, and basically we went out to just to hang out with my friend. Came home one night, and we realized that one of our dogs was barking all night. So a neighbor came over and complained that the dog was barking while we were out.
Oh, wow.
And we apologized. And then this later would be significant because it would lead to a fight on the parking lot.
Oh, wow.
And this is about 4 o'clock in the morning. And when, my friend went out to move his car, I followed about maybe a half an hour after he left the apartment. When I came out, there's 2 guys basically beating him up in the car. So I didn't realize what was going on. So then I went out there to help him out. He's also a lieutenant, which, one thing led to another, and basically you had a big fight in the middle of the parking lot.
Wow.
And then the person he was fighting went inside and got a sword and came out with it and started swinging at us. So when then we disengaged, we got the sword away from him, and then the guy that I was fighting with, he went inside, and he got a gun.
Oh.
So and one thing led to another, and I wasn't paying attention once he went inside, so I went into my car to lock my car up. So and then when I looked up, he had come out with a gun and he shot me.
Wow. And where did you get shot?
I got shot in the head.
Oh.
He was like probably as close to where you are to me.
Wow, that's close.
It was very close, and I had a Jeep at the time. But when he shot me, I went from the front seat, clear all the way to the back of my Jeep.
Wow.
I think it was very fortunate that I was in a Jeep, because I think a lot of the bullet shrapnel, hit the Jeep. I think it was any other car, I don't think I would have survived.
Wow. And that's how you lost your sight.
Correct.
And then after that, were you still able to serve in the military, or did you get a medical?
I got a medical discharge.
Okay.
It was an honorable discharge, and they did a full investigation. They found out that it wasn't just the barking dog that led to the fight, but I guess my friend who went out before me, I didn't know this, but I found out after the fact. I guess he had stopped the fight from one of those 2 guys that were beating him up. One of those guys was beating up a girl.
Oh, wow.
Prior, and he had
so
stopped.
He walked out there and saw this going on and stopped the fight with the girl.
Right.
And then they attacked him.
And they attacked
jumped him.
Correct.
Thugs.
And then basically, that's when I came out there.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that until after the fact. But I'm very fortunate. I mean, it could be worse.
You could have lost your life in that moment.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is as real as it gets. And a lot of people might have just taken that and gone through a lot of stuff. And I want to talk about that for a moment, but you've really made something of your life. I mean, so thank you for not giving up, and thank you for taking your uncle's advice and following your dreams. And that's huge. So tell me what you went through after you were shot, and you're in the hospital bed and you're having to deal with the loss of your sight.
Well, after I got shot, I was, medevac down to Fort Sam Houston, and at the time, I had no idea that I lost my vision. And once I got down there, I went into a coma for 3 weeks.
Wow.
And I don't really remember a lot about the coma. And no, I did not see Elvis. Everybody always asks me that question.
Did you see Elvis?
Yeah, maybe. I could be.
What about Jim Morrison?
Yeah, Jim would be cool to actually meet.
I agree totally.
Well, actually, both of them would be really cool. No, but when I came out, I just remember I was really thirsty, and I remember seeing eye patches on my eyes. I was like, what's going on? So at the time, I was, I kind of like felt around. I knew I was in the hospital, but then I kind of, asked the nurse. I was like, why don't you turn on the lights, because I can't see anything. And then she said, the lights are on, Lieutenant. You're blind. And that's when I kind of went crazy. And, I said, that can't be right. I started taking off my eye bandages and pretty much my IVs and started getting a little crazy.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine. Did you feel like you were in shock or?
Well, a surprise. I didn't think I didn't think that it was permanent. I thought that maybe it's something that they could fix. But as the doctor came and explained to me, this is what happened.
Right.
And you have to get sort of grab the reality of the situation. And he explained it really well. But he said that we were going to do our best to get your vision back.
Yeah. And how many surgeries have you been in since then?
It was over about 15 surgeries.
Oh.
A lot of surgeries. Yeah. And we were. It was tough because I remember I was in Ward 42. Yeah. That's the ICU ward. And Ward 42 back in the day, I'm not sure if it's the case now. It's an open ward. So you share your pain with everybody else who has ICU medical problems. Yeah. So the guy next to you could have an amputated arm and he's screaming and you will share in that pain.
Oh, wow.
It's a tough situation.
Yeah. Level of intensity 10.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And everybody's coming out of surgery or going into surgery.
And these are all soldiers. These are men that have, laid their lives on the line.
Correct.
Yeah. And Correct. There you are with them. And I can imagine, you can't see it, you can hear it. And it's like, wow, that's got to be even more, test on your sanity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what you did from there. How did you come out of that? Was there depression involved? Obviously some PTSD may have set in, but how did you come out of it?
I think it was more of, depression for sure, because you really don't know what your life is going to be like once you become disabled. And and the wounds are so raw when this happened. And I just didn't really want to talk to anybody about what happened. And in so many ways, I was still in denial about my blindness. And it kept saying, you're going to have to be medically discharged, and you're going to be blind for the rest of your life.
Wow.
And that's something I had to really, accept. So I started talking to a lot of my friends, and then they, after about 6 months, they moved me to Tucson, of all places. I've never been to Tucson before, but I just remember, I know at the time Paul McCartney lived there, so it was good for the Beatles. It's got to be a pretty cool place.
Yeah.
So
I'm not hating on Tucson. I just don't prefer it over Phoenix.
Well, it's true. It's different. It's different. But the thing is, they just opened a whole new blind rehab in Tucson.
Oh, did they?
And I said, okay, that's fine. I'll go there. And the Tucson Blind Rehab Center in the VA is fantastic. Just, great people, compassionate people, and they just really know how to get someone back, into the world with their disability, with their blindness.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I went to Tucson, and I was there for a whole year, inpatient.
Wow.
At the time.
Just getting back to a place where you could be in society and start to function again. Tell us some of the things that you learned that were just like basic stuff that you had to learn. Like, what did you have to relearn to do?
Oh, the whole thing was you have to learn how to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, remember, I was 24 years old, very young man, still very arrogant about my youth. You know, you think you know everything at 24. But at the same time, you know, I'm in this hospital setting, and I just, you know, I'm like, why am I here? But I know that I had to learn how to become a blind person. And it humbled me because I really had to take things step by step. I recall one time my teacher, who happened to be blind, who was teaching me how to make salad. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, I know how to make salad. Give me that. Right? And he goes, all right, don't cut yourself. I was like, all right, just give me the knife right there. And, you know, and I gave me all the vegetables. So I cut the salad. You know, I put it in the bowl. And he's like, okay. And he goes, you want to put some dressing on that? I'm like, sure. And I did it really fast. I said, okay, I'm done. You know, it's typical military, right? You get done. Okay, you know, let's go. Let's move on. So then he went over. He was going to check. So he went to check my salad, and he started laughing. And I was like, why are you laughing at my salad? He goes, why don't you try your salad? And I was like, fine. And I tried it, and I was like, huh. It's like, where the hell did the dressing go? You know, because I did it so fast. I squirted the dressing around my plate, you know, and all over the table, you know, because I wasn't paying attention. But at the same time, I was so used to being sighted that I didn't understand the fact that, you know, you're blind now.
Yeah. Wow.
So you have to take things in stride.
Yeah.
So there's some things like that.
That's a great metaphor for life.
That you have to kind of like take a step back and just do things differently.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. So one of the major things that you learned was how to make a salad.
Patience.
Slow down a little bit.
Definitely
Take
be
a step
patient.
back. Be reset. So this is such a great conversation, man. I really appreciate. I can appreciate what it took. Why did you decide that you were going to become an attorney?
You know, the guy who shot me, he was actually, he was here on a temporary visa. So he actually, when he got out of jail, he absconded. He took off.
Wow.
So I was like, how can that be? That's not justice. The other person got, got prosecuted for aggravated assault. But the other person, the guy who shot me, he never saw any prison time.
Wow.
So
he just ran.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. So basically, I was a little angry about that fact, and I said, you know, I'm going to go back to law school, and just basically find some justice myself.
Yeah. And you're a prosecutor?
When I first came out, I was, but you know, when I went to law school, and this is a story in my life. I always say I can do this, and once I'm doing it, I realize, whoa, this is hard.
That sounds like everybody I know.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, this is
not easy.
Yeah, I'm more like the type of person I usually jump in the lake, and I'm like, oh, this is a deep lake.
Yeah.
But you know, when I first decided to go to law school, I remember going to my voc rehab counselor at the VA, and he just said no. He said, no, you're not going.
Wow.
And I was like, why can't I go? He said, because you're blind. I'm like, that's not a legitimate reason, you know. I mean, he told me law school is tough. It's gonna be a lot of reading, and you can't do it because you can't see. I'm like, well, there's gotta be people who've been to law school or business school or graduate school who can't see. So I said, okay, well, what do I have to do? And he told me what I had to do to get into law school. So I said, all right, I'll be back. You know, give me a few months, and that's what happened. I went back, went to grad school, took a few classes, got, you know, my grades higher for grad school. And then I got my references all set and took the LSAT and did well, and eventually applied to law school and got accepted.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome. How did you study? I mean, do you read Braille?
No, well, just enough to know what the men's room is and the women's room.
That's important.
Yeah, although you don't.
In today's,
Society, well, that's true.
current situation, right?
Well, yeah. Well,
it's all over Facebook.
I don't think I'm transgender.
No, you're not, but still.
But the thing is, you can usually tell.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Braille is very tough to learn. And that's what I did when I was in the VA for 1 year. So I do know how to read Braille, but nowadays, you have a lot of stuff with technology and computers.
Well, yeah, text to talk, and then there's Snapdragon, and
there's a lot.
Oh yeah, there's so much out there.
Right, but the thing is, no, I use Braille for certain things, but for law school, I had assigned readers, people who, mainly classmates who wanted a part-time job, 10 hours a week, and they would read to me.
Wow.
But a lot of times we end up like, I hate to say it, we're going to go up to the bar and read the bar menu. And I was like, okay, I don't want to read, 5 hours of constitutional law. We need a break. Right?
Right.
So I'll say, okay, we need to go somewhere else and read something else.
That's brilliant. What is your favorite part of law? What do you like most about the law?
You can cause positive change to happen. I think that's the power of law.
Yeah.
I think sometimes the little guy wins. And sometimes I think, there's justice. Certainly. And I saw that a lot, both as a prosecutor, but now later on I worked with legal aid. So I saw a lot of times where you can do the right things for a lot of people with the law.
Wow, that's awesome. So I love the fact that you are outward focused in helping people and continue to do that work. Let's talk real quick about your being a father. This is a huge piece of, I think, of who you are. And tell us a little bit about, your kids. And, just speak on that.
Well, I have two daughters. I have Krista and I have Courtney. Krista's my oldest.
Okay. She's
23. And she just actually...
you have a 23-year-old daughter?
I do, yeah.
You look like you're in their 30s, man. What are you doing?
I think it's the Asian nationality. And brown rice. That's the tip for all your listeners. Brown rice.
Brown rice.
That's right. Brown rice and swim, run, and bike a lot.
That's it.
Yeah. But she actually, she made me a grandfather.
Wow.
Just recently.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Yes, I have a grandson named Brogan.
Oh, wow. All right.
And then I have another daughter, Courtney, who's 14.
Okay.
She's in 9th grade.
All right. She's still in the high school game.
She is. But she's, it's interesting because, your kids all have different personalities, and which is interesting to watch when they grow up. Yeah. So Krista is more of, she'll like walk around the puddle, type of person.
Right.
And she'll go right through the puddle. She'll sit in the puddle. She'll like roll in the puddle. So it's just two different personalities.
But it's a puddle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when they're like little kids, you're like, okay, get out of that puddle.
Right.
But that's the thing is, I had to raise these two without vision, so it's kind of interesting. And there is an interesting story because the night before I got shot, I was a good photographer. And I took a picture of Krista when she was like about 5 years old then.
Yeah.
She was in the Bluebonnets of Texas. It's a beautiful picture.
Yeah.
And actually, I think Texas Highway Magazine, actually published it.
Wow.
So that was the last vision picture that I took.
Oh my goodness.
And so that's kind of like a snapshot of, the last days of my vision.
Wow.
And when Krista was younger, she wasn't 5. She was like maybe, I'm going to lose my memory. She was like 3 or 4. Because I remember she was still wearing pull-ups. I don't know what age that is. but I couldn't, but when I lost my vision, I couldn't see her.
Yeah.
So I had to have these different strategies of trying to figure out where my kid is. So I put bells on her. Right?
That's smart.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
But at the time, she was like, "Oh, bells, it sounds bad." She was like, like walking around and jiggling around and dancing. I was like, "Yep, I know exactly where you're at."
Yep.
So when she got in trouble, I would put her, in the corner and say, "Okay, you got 30 seconds," and she would try to sneak out, and I was like, "Okay, where are you going?" So she would know, like, oh. And eventually, she would put the bell on the dog or something. She's not dumb either. So I was like chasing after the dog. Yeah. So I was like, okay, that's not her. Where'd she go?
That's hilarious. Kids.
Exactly. They
know. They're not
know.
dumb.
No.
Nope.
But the funny thing is, kids of all people do really well with disabled people.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. They understand.
Yeah.
They're comfortable. I'm generalizing a bit, but at least my kids are. They're very comfortable with the fact that their dad is disabled. I know my Courtney, the one that walks through the puddle, when she was like 3.5, 4, 3.5, she picked up a flower and she was like, "Hey, Dad, check this out." And I said, "Oh, it's great." And then she realized something, and then she stopped me, and she put it in my hand. And then she took my fingers and traced it. And then she said, "This is the flower I picked up." And then she said, "Doesn't it smell nice?" So that was the first time I realized, this kid knows I'm blind.
Wow. Wow, that's precious, man. Thank you. So let's talk about what you're up to now, the Ironman.
Sure.
You are an athlete. And it was obvious when I first met you as you walked up to the door and you walked in. I was like, this guy's pretty solid, man. He lifts weights. And you bike and you run and you swim. So
Correct.
Tell us a little bit. First of all, let's just go ahead and lay the background for the Ironman contest. What is it?
Well, the Ironman is a triathlon, and triathlons are the 3 events of swim, bike, and run. But the thing about triathlons is there's different distances. So like if you watch the triathlons in the Olympics, they're more like either sprint distances or Olympic distances. So they're like, they're shorter because at the same time, especially for Olympic sport, you don't want people to watch 14 hours of people, cycling and swimming. It gets a little monotonous. So Olympic triathletes, they do a little bit shorter distances, whereas Ironmans, they're longer. They have a half Ironman, which is 70.3 miles, and then they have a full Ironman, which is what I do, which is 140.6 miles in one day. And they have these Ironman races all over the world, and they have, of course, a world championship of Ironman, which is held in Kona, Hawaii every year.
Well, that's fantastic. And you are a world-class athlete in that you won the last was physically challenged in 2015. You were number 1 out of all the competitors.
The
right?
Physically challenged.
Yeah, the physically challenged competitors.
Which is kind of interesting because the 2015 race in Arizona was the weather was really bad.
Was it?
It was raining. It was at one point I think it was hailing.
Wow.
And then I know that when I came out of I think it was like 8 physically challenged athletes, and there's 2 other blind individuals, but the others had maybe a hearing impairment. I think there was an amputee in there as well. But when I came out of the water, the swim, I was in 4th place. And then when I came out of the cycling in the transition, I was still in 4th place. And then when I went into the run, 2 miles in, I ran to a pole in Tempe Town Lake. It was a fixed pole. And that wasn't part of the sport, but, it was slippery. And, I got away from my guide, and basically I ran to a pole, and it kind of like got my left eye.
Ouch.
So it started bleeding really bad.
Wow.
And I ran to it pretty hard where it knocked me on my back.
Wow.
So actually, and it's hard when like the spectators go, ooh. And they're like, whoa, that's like a hard hit. It's kind of like an NFL hit. Yeah, it's like, whoa. That's going to require.
Did that go viral?
Yeah, well, I don't know if they,
Did anybody catch it?
No, they did. It would have been a good one.
It would have went viral.
Because I was like a cartoon character. I mean, I bounced off that thing,
right,
landing on my back.
Oh man, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm laughing, but it's just kind of funny.
It was in hindsight, it's kind of funny. Yeah. But the thing was, they said, "Ooh, you're bleeding." So they called the paramedics over. Yeah. And I was bleeding pretty bad. It required stitches. Yeah. So at the same time, my guy, he's very competitive. He goes, "Come on, hurry up, man." And he goes, well, I gotta get clearance from the paramedics. Yeah. So the paramedics said, I think we're gonna have to disqualify you because you can't see from your eye. So and then my guy went berserk. He's like, "What are you talking about? He's blind. He doesn't need to see. Don't worry about it. Just cover his eye up and let's move on." It was funny. And then the guy who was helping me was like, the paramedic's like, "You're blind?" I'm like, "I am." Yeah. He goes, "Oh, okay."
Well, I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Well, you're good. Just take a Tylenol and you're good to go.
Who was your guy? Who was the guy that was...
Mike Cruz.
Mike Cruz?
Yeah, Mike Cruz. He's funny. He's
Shout out to Mike Cruz, man. Way to be a baller.
Yeah, he was like, "Come on, let's go." So and the great thing was that, we were I think we were out from the race for 30 minutes. Wow. And we were in 4th place. I had no idea because we were just running. Yeah. And it was a rough race for everybody, but after we finished the race, my friend's like, "Hey, you got 1st place." I was like, "There's no way I got 1st place." I mean, I ran to a pole. They pulled me aside for 30, 40 minutes. Yeah. And and our run wasn't that fast, but I guess everybody else collapsed.
Wow. You just outlasted them. And you had a nice 30-minute stop.
Yeah. More or less. Right? It's true.
Yeah, no doubt. So, all right, man. So 2015 was a big year for you competing in the Ironman. Right. And so 2016, Kona. This is the world championship, Super Bowl of Ironman competitions. And you're in the forefront. Are you nervous? Do you know who your competitors are?
I do.
Right. Okay. Tell us about, how are you preparing? What are you doing to get ready for this mentally, physically, etc.?
Well, you have to train a lot. I mean, that's one of the big things about Ironman is it's a commitment. Yeah. I mean, you have to respect the distance, especially a full Ironman, because it's a long day and you have to.
Well, it's 140.6 miles.
Correct.
How much of that is running, swimming?
Well, you have to. Well, first in Kona, it's going to be different because it's going to be an ocean swim.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to be, and it's one of the in Kona. It's a shotgun start, which means basically when they and there's about maybe 2,000, 2,500 athletes. Okay, but they got the pros go first. And then all the age groupers, everybody else called age groupers, go next. But it's a shotgun start where once the gun goes off, you just swim. I mean, whereas in some of the other Ironman races, they do wave starts. So they'll say, okay, you're in wave 1, and then 5 minutes later, wave 2, 5 minutes later, wave 3. It doesn't work that way in Kona. No. In Kona, the gun goes off, 2,000 your best friends are going to be jumping on top of you. And it's so for 15 minutes, it is.
Do you have to run down to the ocean?
It's like water rugby. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. No, I mean, you have to protect yourself because, arms are flying everywhere and people are kicking you.
It's like being in a mosh pit.
More or less.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah, so for about 15, 20 minutes, you're fighting for your life.
That's hilarious, man.
So you do a 2.4 mile swim. Mm-hmm. You come out, and then you run through transition 1, and then you get on your bike. I have a tandem bike, obviously, because of my blindness. Right. And my guy Dominic, who he'll be capping the bike. Well, he'll be guiding me through the whole race. Okay. So then we go on the tandem bike, and then we do 112 miles.
112 miles on bike.
Correct. And so that goes up the Queen K Highway up to lava fields and to the mountains of Kona, and then comes back around. And then after the bike, you go to what's called T2, transition 2, and then you get into your running gear and you do a full marathon.
26 miles.
26.2
Yep.
miles.
Yep. And after that,
And collapse.
give me a beer.
That's true.
You carb up, right?
That's true. Well, that's the other part is you do have to have good nutrition and hydration.
Yeah. So what is some of your your regimen for your workout? I don't assume that you do a full Ironman once or twice a week to be ready for this.
No.
No.
No, you have to. I mean, I have 5 months until Kona.
Yeah.
So you have to really progressively work up. I mean, I have a professional coach. Her name is Renee Hodges.
Hey, Renee.
Renee, yep.
Yeah.
She works with Foundation for Fitness. And basically, she's an Ironman herself. But she's also a physical therapist. So you have to have somebody that watches your body, because I work out about 3 hours a day. Sometimes on weekends, it's a 6-hour day.
Wow.
But
that's
the thing
dedication, man.
But it also is a lot of pounding on your body. So you have to really be careful you don't get injured, and just basically progressively work up your body to a point where it could withstand over 10 hours of movement.
Yeah. Well, that seems to be like, wow. I'm in awe of the fact, number one, that you do it. And I'm in awe of anybody who does an Ironman. But then, with your loss of sight, I'm like doubly in awe. So as you're moving into this, you're moving into this next Ironman competition, do you have like sponsors? Do you have like, how does that work?
Well, we're right now, we have a couple of sponsors. I know Independence Fund is a group of guys nationwide actually now that sponsor veterans. They actually they raise money and they give bikes to disabled veterans.
Wow.
And veterans.
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
And that's how I got my racing tandem.
Oh, cool.
And a tandem bike my bike is about $22,000.
Wow.
And that's, but they were able to raise up enough money for me and give me the bike.
Jesus, I don't think I've spent more than $300 for a bike ever.
I know, but I mean,
right.
But the thing is, when you consider, when you consider racing on that bike, I mean, we go sometimes top speed at 45 miles an hour.
Wow.
You want something that's going to be safe for you and your pilot.
Yeah.
But Independence Fund they really are just a really nice organization.
Fantastic. We'll make sure that we put, Independence Fund and their email and their phone number and all that stuff or their website down in the description. As a matter of fact, you can go down there and check it out right now. Are you open to taking any more sponsors on?
Well, we do. We have, of course. We have Challenge Athlete Foundation out of California. They sponsor a lot of your Paralympians. And then we just got a sponsor, Swiftwick, out of Tennessee.
Okay.
They make socks and running gear, which is wonderful considering, my daughters always steal my socks. I have no matching socks whatsoever. So I have to, but these socks are really expensive, so I have to hide them.
You keep an eye on those more.
Well,
make sure you keep them safe and in a place that you can get to them. So how would they? Let's say somebody watches this video and they're interested in this is all but on demand, by the way, so people can just get it whenever they want. But how would we be able to get a hold of you if let's say we wanted to sponsor you, or let's say we just wanted to maybe donate something to a fund to maybe help you with travel or with accommodations or whatever else you might need. How would we do that? How could we reach out to you?
There is, we developed a website.
Okay.
It's my name, basically. It's michael.somsan.com. And then basically we went through the United States Association of Blind Athletes, USABA. That's the governing body for all Paralympians, for the blind.
Oh, wow, cool.
And basically what's great about that is that they also have athletic development accounts for blind athletes. Because when you look at a lot of your Paralympians, they don't have a lot of financial support. Because they can't really hold down a full-time job because they're so busy training and racing.
Right.
So they need this kind of support. So when you go to that USABA site, I have my own account, and we'll give you the links for that account.
Yeah.
But it's also a 501c3, so it's tax deductible.
Oh, cool.
So you can help us out, get to Kona, which it's a very expensive race as well. I mean, it's a very prestigious race, but I think everybody in Kona knows that it's the world championship. So
yeah.
So
is there a maximum donation amount?
No.
Good, because if you want to give $1 million, you're welcome to do that.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the main thing is, it's you can give $1. You can. The main thing is, I think this is a very unique journey. I think everybody will enjoy because, I'm from Hawaii originally. So now, I went to the military, got injured, and then I'm coming back home to Hawaii to race. So this is very special for me. Special for, veterans, special for disabled people.
Yeah, it does touch a lot of different genres of life, and so what we want to make sure is that people can get to you. It's michael.somsan.com. The last name is spelled Somsan. First name Michael, and then .com. I'm sure you guys can figure that out. We'll make sure that we go ahead and put that up as well so that you have access to that. And then an email address is michael.somsan@gmail.com.
Correct.
And go ahead and email him if you have any questions or anything like that. You can definitely do that. Get in touch with him there. So tell me, why is this Kona Ironman really such a big deal for you? Why is it so important? I know that you went to school there and you're coming back, but let's get into that a bit. Why is this such a big deal for you?
I think when I became disabled, you start to, I will tell you, I feared life. When I got injured, I realized that I was broken. And in many ways, my spirit was broken. And I had to get that back. I don't know how else to explain it, because when you injure yourself, like if you were to sprain your ankle and you put a cast on, for the next few months when you have the cast on, it is a pain in the butt having to deal with that cast. But when you have a disability, you can't. It's permanent, and to get around that, you kind of have to get your fighting spirit back. You really do, and that's what I had to learn all these years, was to become, the man that I want to be. I want that my kids can be proud of, that my family can be proud of, that I can be proud of.
That's awesome, man. Well, how do you intend to finish this Ironman?
The swim is the toughest part for me.
Yeah.
If you can imagine, if you were to close your eyes and then also put a cap over your ears and then jump in water and then be in there for about 2 hours. It's could be kind of terrifying.
It's rough.
And then you have 2,000 other people trying to kick your butt along the way, for the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, they swim over.
Right. It's a little terrifying.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it was part of the sport. But at the same time, the swim is the toughest part for me. So I have to get through the swim, and I know that the second part, the bike, is tough for my guy, because he's not as strong on the bike, but we're both strong runners. So I think once we get the first, and there's also cutoff times. You can't just go out there and start doing the backstroke and the breaststroke. There's cutoff times.
Yeah.
And they're pretty competitive cutoff times. So once we meet the cutoff times, I think once we get down to the run, I think we'll be very happy. And probably the last 2 miles, when we get into the chute, the finisher's chute, I will tell you, I'm going to slow that part down, because I really want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because this is Kona. You have to qualify to get to Kona, and I don't know when we'll get back to Kona. So I'm certainly going to savor it.
Yeah.
And if you ever seen any videos of Ironman, those 4 magic words, you are an Ironman. is, after, 15, 16, 17 hours, it's probably like the sweetest thing you can hear.
Wow. That's fantastic. I'm inspired not to become an Ironman, but to definitely watch the footage.
Sure. No, I mean, it's,
yeah,
absolutely.
Well, let me ask you, what inspires you about all of this?
I think what inspires me is that you get to see your potential. And it's the joy of living life. And joy being, joy isn't always, happy. Joy could be you're struggling, you're suffering. It's a part of life. I think sometimes you have to go through these struggles in order to appreciate the things in life, that you have, and that's what I've learned. Ironman is just a one-day condensed version of life, but at the same time, you can push through this tough race. I mean, it is a very tough race. You can push through this. You can push through anything. I mean, that's my opinion.
I agree. There are certain things in life that as you overcome them, it makes you better as a human being, as a person, and shows you what you're made of.
Absolutely.
All right, man. My last question for you, and I'm excited to ask it. So today, what is your role as a disabled veteran in our community, in Arizona and all the other places where you serve?
I want to, show to the veterans that they can have a life, after military service. And I want to show that, the community can also support our veterans. I think it's a relationship that needs to be nurtured and protected. I think a lot of times our veterans, our soldiers who come back from various places, they have a hard time, becoming civilians. They really do. Yeah. They lose that sense of purpose. And it's too bad, because then, they may get into drugs, drinking, and they may take their life or do something bad, like such as that. Yeah. In fact, because they don't feel connected anymore, and that's unfortunate. I have friends now that when they tell me that they don't want to go and run, or they don't want to go and participate in their community, I talk to them, and usually after I talk to them, they want to participate. I don't know, it's because they've known me for so long. It's like, well, if Mike can do it, I can do it. Right. If this blind guy can do it, well, I can definitely do it. So but then I drag them on a 10-mile run. They're like, well, this is kind of tough.
This guy's actually an athlete.
It's kind of tough, blind or not.
Blindness don't mean a damn thing at this point.
Exactly.
I'm just out of shape.
They're like, well, maybe we'll just go and support you.
That's good too, though. Exactly. Thank you for what you do, man. I mean, thank you for reaching out to people, and to speak to what you said. 22 veterans a day commit suicide. Those are the numbers that we hear, and it's unfortunate. And I think it really does happen because of what you said, which is, they come out of combat, they come back to the States, and they have a very different life. It's not as, you're not as, you're really not as, the culture is very different. You don't have a guy standing next to you who you're pulling for his life and he's pulling for yours. Or, it might be your combat unit. It might be, like your platoon. But there is a sense of camaraderie that exists in that arena, in that theater. And when you come back to America, we're all just a bunch of sniveling little bitches trying to make fucking millions on Facebook or whatever. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, and it's all for ourselves. Right. And these guys come back and they face that, and they're like, this is so pathetic. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, and like, I'm just painting a big, broad, brush of it, but I'm sure that when they get here, they're kind of like, man, I kind of want to go back and have that camaraderie, or at least I wish I could have that camaraderie here. And I think that being in athletics, I've got a friend named AJ Richards, who's a veteran and a close friend of mine, and he's a CrossFit guy. Mm-hmm. Started a thing called Rush Club. And he had the same experience coming out. When he was in Baghdad, he came back and he said, man, I was in charge of $1 million operations, multi-million-dollar operations. I had guys under me. I come back here and I'm selling pest control door to door. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm not dissing people who do that, but I'm saying it was a very different experience of life. And today he's doing what you're doing, which is he's helping veterans and he's helping people. Matter of fact, I'm going to recommend you get on his podcast.
Absolutely.
He's got an awesome podcast. So, as we wrap up, I just want to thank you for sharing really from your heart, where you've been, and how you overcame it and what you're up to now. I'm excited, man. We've got a world-class Ironman in our studio today, Nick. That's awesome. Nick's my son. He's doing the production today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Anything else you want to say before we go?
No, just follow our journey, and, watch the race on October 8th.
Awesome. And is that going to be broadcast?
They tape it. NBC is the network that tapes it on October 8th, and then they air it officially on December.
In December, okay. So we'll keep an eye out for that.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Looking forward to seeing you in the race, and also look forward to getting you some help in funding and sponsoring. So please really get in touch with Michael through his website, michael.somsan.com. And again, that's michael.somsan.com. And you'll have opportunities there to either donate or become a sponsor. And if you're, you own a business and you'd like to be, somebody who represents and supports our veterans and our local athletes, and also, physically challenged people, really get the word out and, man, be a sponsor for them, help a brother out, right?
Absolutely. We also have a Twitter site.
Oh, come on, Twitter.
Facebook. It's under Blind Ironman.
Blind Ironman.
Yes, that says it all. It's better than short, blind Asian guy. I think that's too long.
I like that.
I don't have what's the abbreviation for that.
Blind Ironman.
Short, blind Asian guy. SBAG.
SBAG.
SPAG. That doesn't sound
SPAG.
Right. That doesn't sound attractive.
Not as cool as Blind Ironman. I like that better.
That sounds better.
Yeah. So you'll find them on Facebook and Twitter at Blind Ironman. And like I said, get involved. That's how we do here. So for the Edge podcast, I'm MikeG, and also for my friend Michael Somsan, the Blind Ironman. We'll see you next time.
Decoding visionaries and subcultures. The Edge podcast with MikeG is brought to you by the following sponsors. Thank you for your support.